Welcome to another episode of #TellMeYourStory podcast. I'm your host, Danielle. Today we have a truly exceptional guest with us, Kaidon Adams. Hailing from Ladywood, England, Kaidon's journey is an incredible testament to resilience and transformation. From a childhood overshadowed by a volcanic evacuation in the Caribbean to navigating the tumultuous seas of a dysfunctional family life and an entanglement with crime, Kaidon's life took him through challenging waters. Yet he emerged as a beacon of hope, embodying the spirit of redemption, self-improvement, and newfound purpose. Welcome, Kaidon.
How's it going, Dan? You all right?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Just a little
Yeah.
bit tired.
Yeah, it's this change of weather, isn't it? As everybody knowing like it.
Oh, bro, it's been crazy.
I just want to welcome you to the podcast. It's great to have you on.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you for inviting me.
there's no problem at all. So we'll jump straight in. So can you start with sharing your incredible journey with us from your origins in the Caribbean to where
Yeah.
you are today, where the pivotal moments that shaped your life?
So I was born in the Caribbean on a small island called Montserrat. I don't remember much because I ended up coming here when I was 2, but we'll get into that in a second. But the island's not, it's not very big. From what I've been told, it's no bigger than the size of Birmingham.
Wow.
Exactly. So everybody knows each other. It's quite small, but yeah, to get into it. So I was born in 95, came to England in 97 because of a volcanic eruption. So the island I was born on, it basically has an active volcano slap bang on it. And during I think it was probably the beginning of the year in 97, the volcano started going off.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know the full logistics of it, but from what I've been told, from what my dad's told me, is when the volcano started going off, he was at work, my mom was at home with me. My mom didn't know what to do. She kind of panicked, so she put me in the bathroom. Don't ask me what a bathroom was gonna do to save me from a volcanic eruption. Then what happened was they evacuated. They evacuated everybody, and then yeah, I ended up here in England. So I went from Montserrat to Barbados and then Barbados to England at 2 years old. But I think some of my mum's family was already over here. So I think
Yeah,
we stayed with them for a little while. And then we got a house in Ladywood. And I guess that's where it all began.
definitely. That's a quite a bleeding chaotic start, isn't it, for someone's life, like an uprooting from one country to another. Did they obviously spoke English over there when you first started, so was that your first language anyway?
Yeah, English is the first language over there. Obviously, it's just broken English. So it's
Yeah,
like another version of Patois. Like
yeah,
everybody knows the Jamaican Patois, but it's just another version. So yeah, it's English, but it's broken English. But I guess at 2 years old, like, I'm probably just learning how to develop speech in it.
yeah.
So as soon as I've come to England, like I've naturally just adopted it. Obviously, as I grew up a little bit, I could hear my mom's tongue, my dad's tongue, and it's just like, but I can't really imitate it very well, so I don't even try.
No, I won't ask you to do that then.
Yeah, don't ask me to do that. I won't be doing that.
So when you got to Ladywood then, so what was it like growing up?
You know what? I had I had quite a normal childhood for like the beginning of my life. Like, I'll be very honest. It was a good upbringing. Like we didn't grow up in like an affluent area. Like Lady was like very poverty driven, and like you don't notice at the time as a child. Like you don't really notice these things. You're too busy just enjoying life.
Yeah,
But as I grew older, I kind of started realizing certain things. But from what I can remember, school was all right. I was quite intelligent in school, if not to toot my own home, but you know what, I was. And it kind of it didn't really I didn't see myself end up where I ended up, should I say. But growing up, it's like mom, dad home, we had food on the table, I had clothes on my back, I had a roof over my head. My mom worked at where did she work? She worked at a primary school. My dad was like a construction person. He's good with his hands, he's a real handyman. I definitely don't inherit that from him because I'm
no,
not a handyman at all. At all. What else? Education was fine. I guess things kind of took a turn for the worse when I got into like year 10, year 11, year 12. After
Yeah,
like I started growing older and I started noticing some of the relationship issues that was going on with my mom and my dad. Like for me personally, when I moved from Montserrat, obviously as a child, so I don't think it impacted me that much. But the strain that it would have put on them probably would have been a lot. So
yeah.
like growing up, I started seeing certain cracks. Like my dad used to drink alcohol a lot, which didn't really help. There was other things that used to go on, like violence and things. But I guess you're just growing up in it as a child. Like you see it, you cry it off, but it doesn't really register with you.
No, you just think it's normal, don't you? It's like
Yeah, to an extent. Like you see it and
nobody's
you're like,
pointing it out to you to tell you it's wrong. So it's just
yeah,
something you grow up with, isn't it? And it is quite strange. Now as an adult, you can see the
yeah, when you're
dysfunction in
looking
it.
back,
But
100%.
yeah, you don't realize when you're in it at all, do you?
Nah, not at all, not at all. But as I said, like, so growing up, primary school was fine. My education was good. Like my mom and my dad moving from Montserrat, like their reading and writing skills weren't great. So like even as a child, I was helping them like read, write letters to like banks and stuff. Like it was interesting. Looking back, I would say it was an interesting way to start to life. But then I think things kind of took a turn for the worst when I hit like the age of 12, 11, 12. Like that's when my dad ended up leaving. That's when I was moving into secondary school. So yeah, secondary school was like the next obstacle I had to get around.
Definitely. And it's hard enough going into high school as it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's an added pressure just on his own. So to have that that upheaval of your dad then leaving at 12 must have posed some unique challenges. How did these experiences influence your outlook on relationships and personal resilience then after that?
Um, hmm. I guess so. This way it gets interesting. So obviously, my dad was like the main breadwinner of the house. Like he pulled in like a lot of the money at the time when we was in England. Like construction was really important. Like people are England's building as an economy during these times. Like he's got jobs, even side jobs. Like he was money was flowing well. After he left, so my mom working in the school that she works in, she didn't at the time I didn't know it, but now I know she doesn't make a lot of money. Like I used to make in a I make in a week what my mom made in a month.
Yeah.
So to pay bills, buy clothes, buy food, at the end of the month you don't really have much left. So going into secondary school, that's when you start becoming a bit more aware of life, should I say, and like how things are. Like you're going into that little transition phase now. So you start looking at other kids and what they're wearing, or other kids and they have food and whatnot. So as I got into secondary school, I was seeing like I'm not saying I wasn't going to school looking like trampy, should I say, but
You just didn't have what the other kids had.
yeah, not what the other kids had. And it was kind of I noticed that it was kind of like a shock to the system. And I used to go home and wonder to myself like, oh, why don't I have this, or how can I get this? So as that kind of came about, like I started to realize like a change in my demeanor and my attitude. So in primary school, I went from like a bubbly character to somebody a bit more staunch. And I started realizing that, okay, cool. I had to be on dinner tickets to be able to get food. And I was saying to myself, okay, this isn't gonna last me through the day. Like the food wasn't the greatest at the time. I was like, yeah, okay, what else am I gonna have to do? So during like year 8, I think that's where I started to essentially fend for myself and become like the man of the house.
Yeah.
And that's where all the crime and stuff came into play.
Well, you always had that responsibility, didn't you? Even though you were a child growing up, like reading and writing for your parents, and like that's a lot of responsibility for a kid growing up. So I suppose when your dad stepped out, it felt like that was your
Um,
responsibility then to step in and help out, I suppose, isn't it? And I suppose a lot of
Yeah,
kids these days are feeling that through the cost of living crisis, aren't they? You know, a
100%.
lot of single parent families. So like I can totally understand how, because you were you the oldest as well?
Yeah, so in my household, yeah, I was the only child, but my mom has two other kids. so I have two older brothers on her side, and my dad has two other kids as well, which is an older brother and an older sister. But I've never met my sister, and neither has my dad. So yeah, it's a bit all over the place.
I can relate to that because I have one sister, that's my dad's, that I've never met. I've spoke to her on Facebook, but I've never actually met her. So it's a bit madness, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a
Yeah, but
bit
still, so
dysfunctional.
you were the only child in the house then. So that was what led you to need to step up and help out, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, so Ladywood itself, like I said, isn't the most affluent area. It hasn't got the most going on. Like at one point in time, I remember a few years ago, it was quoted as being the most poverty-stricken area in the whole of in the UK, which was a bit wild to me because obviously growing up there, it's like, oh yeah, it's not that bad.
That's all you know,
Can't be
innit?
that bad. Yeah, and I don't really know about statistics and things like this. But starting to see, we started like struggling a lot. So sometimes there wouldn't be food in the house, or sometimes we struggle to eat food, or little things like electric and things would go, and it started to get a bit on top. And this when I started to like, this is where everybody around me started to move into other things as well. So everybody that lived in my area, like we all grew up quite close. And then when everyone started going to secondary school and everyone started becoming like adolescents, I guess that's where people started causing a bit more trouble. But it wasn't really a thing for me. I was still like stuck on like playing football and things until this moment I realized, okay, cool. I can't go through life without money. And then I started seeing some of my friends like robbing phones and getting money from here and there. And I was like, okay, so if I do this, if I do X, I can get Y. I was like, all right, let me try this out. So I guess 14 was probably the first time I started doing crime, should I say. I won't go too much into that. I won't go too much. Don't want to incriminate myself.
Yes, of
But
course.
yeah, as time went on, you know, what people don't tell you about crime is once you commit your first crime, I guess it's like anything actually. You know, once you do something once, you become a bit more confident and you'll do it again, and then you'll do it again, and then you'll start upping the stakes.
Yeah,
It's the same with crime, innit? Like you
yeah,
do something petty, you realize, oh, I can get away with this, and no one's gonna know, and nothing's gonna happen. So I
yeah.
guess when that started, I was like, okay, cool. Let's start upping the stakes a little bit. So for like from between 14 and 16, crime got progressively worse. And then at 16 was the first time I was ever arrested. So the first time I ever got arrested, I was 16 years old. So I guess I had a nice little stretch without getting caught. 'Cause I know
You
people that are
probably
going to
thought you were
jail.
invincible by then,
Basically, that's
innit?
exactly what it was. So I guess as a lot because a few people I knew was going secure unit from the age of 11 and 12. And then yeah, 16 was the first time I got caught. First time I was in a police cell. First time I really contemplated anything, but at the time it's just like, oh, you know what? I'm in here. The rest of my other friends are in here. More these at this time, I have a bit more knowledge around like the police system and like how to navigate certain things. And in interviews, you just say no comment. You don't even open your mouth, even if it was you. So on that occasion, I managed to we got NFA. So again, this is feeding my ego. Like, okay, I can get away with this stuff. Like, as long as I do what I need to do, as long as I don't leave any clues and marks, then you can get on with it. So 16, I'm still in school these times, committing crime, still going to school, like everything's normal. Coming home, giving money to my mom, like buying food for the house, making sure I have food, all these little things. And then school finishes and we move into college. And not even a year out of school, I say about 9, 10 months. That was the first time I went to prison at the
Wow,
age of 17.
that was young.
Yeah. At the time, I look back and I'm like, wow, you really thought you was a big man. Because at 17, I thought I knew everything. Nobody could tell me nothing.
No one could
I, I,
touch you.
yeah, like it was one of those ones. Like
Yeah,
I felt like a big man at 17.
yeah, definitely. And I was the same. I had moved to a different country by the time I was 17. And
Yeah.
like my first stint in prison was 16. So it was only on remand, but
Okay.
it was still my first time like in on the YP's wing in Eastwood Park. So like to go in that age it is quite young. We don't think it at the time,
Nah,
but
not at the time.
we're still very influential at that age. And
Yeah,
going
100.
into a place where there's a lot of people talking about crime and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It doesn't do you any good to go into prison at that age because, to be honest with you, all I did was learn things I shouldn't learn.
Listen, you hit the note on the head because prison, I say it to people all the time. If you're the type of person that really embodies the criminal lifestyle, it's like a university. Like you go in there, even at 17, you'll meet people from Manchester, Liverpool. Like this is what I kind of noticed here that what I'm doing isn't that special because everybody else that is from similar backgrounds as me, from different areas in England, are doing the exact same thing. But you're meeting people like, yeah, you're in jail for this. What did you do? Yeah. Oh, you can get this. Oh, and you start connecting dots and people start becoming friends. And I guess that's where your criminal IQ elevates a little bit.
Definitely. And your network reaches beyond your own like area then, doesn't it? So
Exactly.
you get more opportunities to be further brought into the criminal world then. And that's all I found of what
Yeah,
I found
100,
of prison.
100%.
Definitely. So was that the first time that you went to prison? Did you go to prison? Like, did you change after that, or did you go in a few more times? Or
Oh, so yeah, prison that was the first time I went to prison. So I'll tell you a little bit about the charge. So the initial charge was there was three of us and we got charged. So it was in the police station. And again, I'm just like, oh, yeah, it's the police station. Yeah, you caught us, but I've gone through protocol. I made sure I covered my tracks. Like, what can you really do? I remember I was in the cell at the front of the police station, so I could see the desk and hear what they was talking about. At these times, we've been in there for 2 days, and then now they've gone for an extension, so an extra 12 hours. And I'm just sat there like, okay, you need to let me out. I haven't showered in 3 days. I stink. I'm eating rubbish food. I've been living off cereal bars. And I can hear them at the front desk. And they said, oh, we're gonna have to charge them. And I'm thinking, charge them. So they took us in the interview room, said, oh, you're being charged with burglary, robbery, and kidnap. And when I heard kidnap, I was like, what? I looked at my solicitor, like, kidnap is, the little give us a second. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. This, and that happened. And then the person essentially pressed charges. But when we've gone to court, we've gone through a plea deal and whatnot. The person dropped the charges because they had no real evidence. So we just pleaded guilty to burglary times 4. And essentially a 11, 12-year sentence got taken down all the way to a 12-month sentence. So I had to do 6 months and then another 6 months on probation when I was released.
that must have been a relief.
No,
That you
listen,
looking. Was that what like sort of like prompted you to want to stay away from crime, or
nah. So I went to jail and I was like, oh, this isn't that bad because as I've gone into jail, like I said, everybody around me is committing crime. Like I just beat a case a few weeks earlier, but one of my friends got sent down. A couple of my other friends got 5 years, so they was in the same prison. So as soon as I've come there, it's just, oh, it's like as
you
soon you got the
belong?
outside,
It's
yeah.
like you belong, isn't it?
It
Because
wasn't. It
everybody
didn't feel
around you
bad.
is
Like as soon as I got to the jail, I was calling for them. I was like, okay, sir, moving me over here. Sir, I'm moving in with my friend in this pad. End up getting a gym orderly job with me and my friend. Them everybody's on servery. It was just, if I'm being honest, it was like a big playground. Like, don't get me wrong. The first week that I was in there, so I went to prison like on a little 2 stints during this charge. So the first time I went, I was on remand, and this was during my college years. So I almost missed out getting my first year of college done. So I went to jail for remand for 7 days for a week. The first day, yeah, I was like, oh my days, I can't believe I'm here. Forget this. I'm not doing this again. Blah de blah blah blah. Get released. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Went back to doing what I'm doing. Went to jail, and now I'm in jail. I'm thinking, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Like, is this my punishment? Are you being serious? Like, I come to chill with my friends. I don't have to worry about anything that's going on in the outdoors. I just do a little bit of time and then I can go home. Yeah, cool. As soon I went to jail from December 2012 and I was released in June 2013. And as soon as I was released, again, crime got progressively worse. I said, if that's the best you can do, then I don't think it's not that bad. That's not gonna deter me
Yeah.
from anything. And then plus it's you go back into the same environment, so it's just like it's all normal. Like and plus I don't know anything else, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Like I tried to get the jobs when I came out. They provided me with help from a company called Per Temps. That didn't work out. Went to job interviews, they looked at my criminal record, they said, yeah, you're not really a fit for us because at these times people are looking deeply into people's criminal records and really judging them.
Yeah.
So after about a few months, I said, yeah, this isn't me. Went back to crime, got progressively worse, moved on to selling drugs, and then yeah, sold drugs for a few years. And then my second prison sentence came, and for that one, I got a 5-year sentence, and that was a relief. And there's a really funny story, if I'm being honest with you.
Go
But
on.
I guess that's probably where things kind of at the end of that sentence, that's where things kind of took a turn for the better, should I say? Yeah, 100% for the better.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, so my prison sentence, yeah. So between 2016 and I went to jail in 2021. I think it's 2021, just after my 21st birthday. So the judge let me have my 21st birthday on the curb, so I was happy about that. And then when I went back to court the second time, they sentenced me to 5 years in prison, which I'm not gonna lie, I was so happy about it because from what I got caught with, and then it was on two separate occasions. I got caught with like a quite a large quantity of drugs on two separate occasions. And my solicitor was saying, if you get anything under 7 years, like be happy. So when I got a 5, I was over the moon. Like I know I was going to jail for 2.5 years, but I was like, you know what, this could be a whole lot worse. I could have
Yeah.
ended up in prison for things that were a whole lot worse than this as well. So I took it on the chin. I said, yeah, let's just 2023 get released, and then we'll be good to go. No, tell a lie. Sorry. I went to jail in 2016 and came out in 2018.
I was just
That's what it
about
is.
to ask you.
That's it. Because you know the introduction of COVID, yeah, it just made my mind think. Since 2020, everything's been a blur. I went to
And
jail
it
in
seems like it's been
2016.
so long as well, don't it?
Yeah, man. Like I look back and I'm like, yo, I came out of jail this many years ago. So yeah, 2016 to 2018 and a 2.5 year sentence. And that started in Winston Green. And Winston Green was again, it wasn't that bad. Like Winston Green has a notorious reputation. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard about it. I feel like a lot of people have. But when I went
Yeah.
in there, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Like again, there was quite a few people that I know from road here. So it wasn't like a big issue. I went there, spoke to new people, learned new people, took contacts and that. I got moved to Stoke Heath, a jail in Shropshire. That was probably the worst jail I've ever been to in my life. It was like a army camp, it was like a boot camp. I hated it. Some days they introduced something one time where we was literally on bang up for about 26 hours, and it was just like, yeah, this is terrible. Like,
Yeah.
and even that at the time, I was like, you know what? It's just part of what you have to do. So from Stoke Heath, I said, yeah, I need to get out of here. One of my friends that I met in Stoke Heath, he said he was moving to a jail down south called Guy's Marsh, and I was like, where's that? He's like, oh, hour outside of Bristol. I was like, yo, how far is Bristol from Guy's Marsh? And he was like, oh, it's only about an hour. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Tried to put into my local jails, Oakwood, Featherstone, places like that. Didn't get accepted there. Got accepted at this guy's Marsh jail. Had to tell a little lie to go there. Had to tell them that my dad moved down south to Bournemouth. And just the only way that he'll be able to visit me. Moved to Guy's Marsh. And for the first few months I was there, so I think I was in Stoke Heath for I'll say about 14 months. And then I spent about just over a year in Guy's Marsh, and then I went to open jail. But in Guy's Marsh, like you see me personally, I like jail to be easy. I don't like there to be too much going on. Like I just like to chill out, do what I'm doing, not have
Get it
people.
done.
Yeah, man. Like I don't see why people like. There's people that I'm not saying if trouble come my way, I won't deal with it. But there's people that like to invite trouble. Like you're already in a hard situation. Why make it harder for yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was told this by quite a few people, and they was not saying you're not living. Prison isn't a cushy life, but you can at least try to live as cushy as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So that's what I tried to do. So like I got a job in the library. That was very relaxed because I can go to like different wings, see other people, see my friends and stuff, and that was cool. Um, Guys Marsh, it was different to Stoke Heath because there's a lot more freedom. Like I remember one time I got in trouble for, you know how you have like the secure gate and the inside gate.
Okay.
Basically the stuff was happening and I got involved and I got put into a nicking, but I managed to beat the nicking because of technical difficulties. But it was like very serious stuff. And I was like, okay. There was like, if you don't behave, we're gonna send you back to Stoke Heath. So from there I decided, you know what, let me just keep my head down. But anyway, in the library, at the beginning it was just me. And then these two guys came in from Exeter, one of the prisons down south. And as soon as I met one of them, he walked in. The first thing he said to me was, "I'm gonna take your job." I was like, "What?" I was like, "You're not." And you know how these conflicts are in prison. It's
Yeah.
like you could take it the wrong way, or you could just be like, "Okay, cool." But eventually, they got a job in the library as well, and then we got to talking, and they weren't you ordinary people. Like one of them was in uni trying to become a doctor. The other one was in uni trying to become a marketer.
Wow.
And they've been sent to prison. So they went to uni in Plymouth, and they got sent to prison because they were selling weed. So they got put on a conspiracy charge. And I was like, oh my days, like how are you in prison with the rest of us? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't make no sense. But then they started telling me about different things. Like that was the first time I ever got introduced to the concept of stocks and bonds. And they were like they were quite business savvy, if I'm being honest. But I was just like, if we was out on road, I don't think we would ever associate it with each other. But because we're in this close knit environment, and I'm quite an open person, like I don't like to push people to the side because they don't act the way I think they should act. So I tend to give people chances. But the things that they were saying, like it was just sparking something in the back of my brain, and I was like, you two are like interesting characters, and I would love to have you in my life. So we just continued talking like through Guys Marsh. One of them got released. Then I went to Open Jail Spring Hill. Another one of them came to Spring Hill Open Jail. Then we got released. I got released in September 2018. He got released, I think, a few weeks afterwards. His code was already out, and we just kept in contact. And that I think that's what sparked the change, to be honest. Like I won't lie, when I came out of prison, I kind of went back to the same environment. So I was kind of
Back to what
dabbling in
you
this,
know.
back to what I know essentially. But we kept in contact. And it was kind of surprising for me because in my head, I'm like, I have nothing to offer you. Like I brought this up to them. I was like, why do we talk? I was like, I have nothing to offer you. You are doing at the time we're talking, they're talking about they're going to this business meeting and that business meeting and meeting with this person. And all I can think to myself is, wait, I'm going out to do this and this and this. Like it's so uninteresting. And he said to me, like, you're cool, bro. Like, I see you as a good person. And I feel like that was the first time I was like, raw, somebody actually sees something in me. Because during my time in school, some teachers would say, oh, you're never going to amount to nothing. You're going to be a statistic, whatnot. And at this time, I'm like, whoa, maybe like there is something different to life.
Yeah,
Like,
if these people can see something in me, there's got to
yeah.
be something.
And they were very heavy into entrepreneurship. And like, it was something that like it's it was at the forefront of their minds essentially. But they started showing me like different people that made X amount of money or got out of their situation through entrepreneurship. And I was like, whoa, hold on. You're telling me for the past 10 years I've been doing crime and doing road, trying to make it out essentially, and I've been stuck in the same place. But now you're telling me I could apply different skills elsewhere and learn and build different skills and do that without risking going to prison. I was like, okay, tell me more. And then as conversations continued, as we met up, they started a digital marketing agency. One of them, he put me onto learning for myself, so Coursera. And through like online courses and digital marketing courses, like there was a period of time where I sat down for 6 months straight and just learned digital marketing. I said to myself, you know what? Going to prison isn't the be all or end all, but it is a waste of time. And now I've been shown this light. Why would I continue to waste time? So I think it was like during 2020 where I decided to make a conscious change and say to myself, yo, maybe it's time to leave crime alone. Because looking back, like I started maturing at this point. I started reading books and things. I picked up my love for writing again. And I said to myself, you've caused your dad pain, you caused your mom pain, and you've caused yourself pain. Like, why continue it if there is a different path? And don't get me wrong, it was like one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. But I think it was probably the best decision for my life because, like I said to both of them numerous amounts of times, if I didn't meet you two, I actually think I'd either be in prison doing a very long time or potentially dead.
Well, it's those two people came into your life and showed you another way. And I suppose that goes for a lot of people that's involved in crime. If they're shown another way, sometimes it's all they know. And like growing up in council estates, growing up in poverty areas, the only people and role models a lot of people have to look up to is people who are on the streets because
Yeah,
that's who they
exactly.
See.
That's all you see.
You
That's
know what I
all you're
mean?
exposed to, and it's a big
Yeah.
influence.
But it shows like even though these people are in crime like ourselves, even though we were getting involved in and applying our skills in the wrong way, we
Yeah,
had skills and we wasn't wrote off as much as we thought. Like we didn't have to live the
yeah,
life.
100%. Like we talk about it all the time. You see, in prison, some of the things I see people do, it's mind blowing. Like I see people make teddy bears out of matchsticks and paper origami stuff, and like even some of the conversations you have with some people, like you can see that they're very intelligent, but the only downside is because of the environments that you've grown up in, you've never been able to, or you've never been shown how you can apply your skills elsewhere. And yeah, that's the biggest downfall. But as soon as you notice that, you're like, okay, cool, maybe I can change my life around.
Yeah, definitely. And it's that transferable skills, isn't it? It's just using the skills you have in a different way. And it goes like you sold drugs. So you run a business. It might not have been a legal business, but you have
Exactly.
skills to run a business. So showing people that they can use them skills for legal things and showing them how to do it is what is needed more, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like
100%.
you can't just put them in prison and then throw them back out and expect them to change. Like you
No.
need entrepreneurs out there that are role models that are willing to get stuck in and show people this is the way. And it's mad that you met them in prison as well. It's like they were sent there right for you.
Yeah, oh, listen, I say it to the, I said, yo, that was fate. It was fate that happened because I don't know the odds of it happening, but yeah, it was 100% fate. But back to what you said about being thrown out of prison onto the streets, like, yeah, man, the system is not designed to help. Like you said, a lot of people are entrepreneurial in jail, like especially people that have been in for drugs. And I feel like when you go to probation, like I had this problem with probation, like nobody ever listened to what you had to say. Like fortunately, I had a great probation worker. Like she was understanding. Like the people above her weren't that understanding, but she was understanding. And I would tell her like, "Yo, I want to get into this and get into that," and she would kind of refrain from putting me into extensive work. And I was like, I was happy for that because at the time I was trying to do little things here and there, and she kind of, I'm not saying she opened up the gateway, but because she didn't force certain things onto me, I feel like that helped me a lot as well. But I feel like probation services need to start listening to people a bit more. Like, I don't want to go out and say, oh, I gotta go work a 14-hour shift at Amazon warehouse. Like, especially the way the world's going now, I feel like people need to start being introduced to new skills.
Definitely. And it's like I shout and scream for lived experience, people with lived experience in the social sector, because
Yeah,
that's primarily where we're welcomed and open, our experiences, people are learning from them. But not everyone is cut out for that type of work. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
suppose this is a great lesson that you had, because meeting them people in prison showed you a totally different, which is a life that wouldn't have been open to any of us, like, who are involved in the criminal world. So someone shone a light on, like, crypto, and I wouldn't have a clue to even where to start with that. So how long after you got out of prison then, and you got into, like, the marketing crypto, like, how long did it take you to make that positive change in your life?
Okay, so I was released in September 2018. Literally, it's 5 years ago, a couple of days ago. I
Oh,
think it was the 8th.
congratulations.
Yeah, freedomversary. I didn't even know there was a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 2018, I think the conscious change came between the end of 2020 and 2021. So between 2020 and 2021, 2021 is where, like, the end of 2020, start of 2021 is where I said, yeah, I need to stop everything altogether. That's where I didn't go straight into work. Like, I've always been a bit adverse from work. Like, it's like I've seen everybody that's ever told me to get into work. I've always seen the way they've complained about it,
Yeah.
and it's like, why do I want to go do something that I'm going to complain about? But obviously, because of, like, the life that I lived, I had, like, a bit of money saved up, so I was able to, like, have basically, like, a whole year out. So during
Was
that
that
time,
during lockdown? And
yeah, yeah. So during lockdown, and then 2021, from the start of January to the end of 2021, I literally stayed in my house. It sounds a bit sad, but I distanced myself from my friends, because I said to myself, I'm never gonna make a change if I'm constantly around you, and obviously a lot of them are still involved in, like, that side of stuff. And I remember having a conversation with one of them, and he said to me, like, "Yo, are you actually out? Are you finished?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's like I'm done with it, bro. Like, I can't do this no more. Like, the thought of going to prison, it's not scary, but I'm just not going to be wasting
done
more
with it.
time, man. It's not worth it." And he respected me for it. Like, a lot of people think that your friends are gonna shun you and that, but nah, man. Like, I feel like if they are your friends, they will understand the change that
Yeah.
you're trying to make.
And they'll support you.
Exactly. And even though I didn't see them all the time, we still kept in contact, and it was all good. So for the whole of 2021, I literally just done courses, read books, went to
Self-discovery.
events. Yeah, man. I had to essentially rebuild myself. And then at the end of 2021, I decided to get I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it was actually a job, because I went to work for one of my friends, but it was kind of flexible. But
Yeah.
then at the start of 2022, that's where I decided to leave that job. So the friend that I met in prison, he had been given an opportunity to join a crypto startup. And then as he's joined the crypto startup, he said to me, "Oh, bro, how do you want to join this startup to basically develop your skills in marketing?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm on it. Like, I'm happy to do that." So he told me about this one week. On the Friday, he said, "Yeah, he'll let me know if it's confirmed or not." Woke up on the Friday. He's told me. I've said to my friend, "Yo, bro, I'm quitting." So Friday, I quit that job. Monday, I moved to Basingstoke. So within the space of 48 hours, I just got up and moved. And I guess that's where I got to put everything I've learned into practice for the next 6 months.
So what does, like, crypto entail then? What
Oh
did
my
you do when you
days.
went there?
So I never crypto was it's been around for a while. Like, a lot of people see it as new, but it's been around since, I think, like 2017, if not earlier. The concept definitely has been around earlier, but as an actual product and service, it's been around for, like, probably about, like, 5 years, probably a bit longer. Anyway, the marketing company was the crypto company was interesting. So it was me and my two friends that I met in prison, and then it was another person that they knew from prison, and they managed to contact somebody. They had an idea, essentially. To The whole concept was giving creators and people that watch films, like, the power back through decentralized media. And I know it's a hard concept to get your mind around, but essentially the same way that people, like, how Hollywood will make a big film and get paid out for it, we are going to try to do the Netflix model, but pay the creators a fair wage and then distribute to people that got involved in the project. So it was the crypto company tested. It done a lot for me because it showed me what I'm capable of in it. It showed me that okay, cool. Even though you don't have things sussed out, you can work them out along the way.
Yeah.
And again, it put me in a situation I would never ever in a million years thought I'd find myself in. But it was the trenches, man. It was from going from doing compliance like 2 to 3 times a week or when I could be bothered to actually trying to scale a business in a very competitive industry, and an industry that even though my knowledge lacked, like we had to build it up. So there was only a few of us in the company that knew a lot about crypto. It was every single day learning about crypto, figuring out what's going on, buzzwords, applying this, putting this into marketing. And over the space of 6 months, like we grew a considerable amount. But then eventually we had to go into liquidation because a lot of things that happened internally. And then like the crypto market took a turn for the worse.
Yeah. So that's what happens with a lot of startup businesses anyway, doesn't it? But it doesn't take away the skills and the experience that you got from working in
Yeah,
that industry.
100%. It doesn't like. I remember when we was going through this situation, and all I could think in the back of my head was, "Yo, I'm not gonna get to write no more." Like I wasn't thinking about the fact that I'm gonna be out of work or the fact that I'm not gonna have no money coming in. Just the only thing in the back of my head was like, "Yo, I'm not gonna be able to write any more Medium articles." That was my biggest worry, and I was like, I'm gonna find a way to make this work, even with or without the crypto company. So as soon as we've left the crypto company, we've gone. I had like a 2 month period where I didn't have any sort of work, and it was a bit stressful because you go from having a job to not having a job. I'm not doing criminal activity because it's like now I'm just like, okay, cool. I don't have a source of income. I can't go back to that because that's not going to be taking steps forwards. That's just going to be regressing. So, okay, cool. Where do I go from here? Started to try and look for jobs again, no success. And then I got introduced to a company called Radical Recruit, and they managed to like immediately they helped me out straight away. So it's not agency, a recruitment company that works with ex-offenders and other people from similar backgrounds, and they help to find people to put people into employment. And the meeting straight away with them was fine. Within a few days, they're helping me CV, putting me into job interviews, job practices, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, cool." So as soon as I got in contact with them, 2 weeks later, I had an interview. Another 2 weeks later, I had a job at a paid media agency running Facebook and Google ads.
Yes. That must have been some journey. Then we need more of them recruitment companies out there. I know a few have popped up, but having things like that out there for people with lived experience is what's needed, isn't it? Because doing the criminal record and that DBS and is a nightmare, isn't it? And it's not really fair. It is practically re-traumatizing just having to do that process of going through disclosure and everything else when you've got a criminal record. So to have a recruitment company who can make that a lot easier for you is going to keep you on that path, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like, I was very disheartened at this time, and I won't lie. During like that little period, I said, "Yo, would it be that bad if I went back and dabbled in crime a little bit?" But I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't do that no more because it's who I was. It wasn't who I was trying to become. So I just had to stick it out. Like, luckily, I'm kind of good with money, so I don't spend a lot of money where other people are doing stuff. I stopped going out partying and stopped eating out all the time, cooking at home, all these little things.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I went into the paid media, so during my interview, I literally lied to their faces like blatantly. I told them that I knew how to run Facebook ads and Google ads, but little did they know, well, at the time, little did they know that during the week I was told that I would have an interview. I just sat down again for a whole week and learned how to do Facebook and Google ads. And then luckily, I remember they phoned me. No, one of the co-founders of Radical Recruit said to me, "Is like, oh, I got some bad news for you." In my head, I was like, "Oh yeah, expect this." They hired me, and I was elated, man. It was like I was over the moon.
Quick
it was
study though to pick it up in a week, because I know I've looked at Facebook ads to promote like the clips in here from the podcast, and it's a fucking nightmare. But
yeah,
so you got that job then?
yeah. So I got that job in October last year, and so I had to go to London for like 3 months for like say like 4 days a week. Luckily, like they pay for travel and accommodation stuff just to get me up to scratch. Because like again, it was like a new skill. Like even though I developed skills like copywriting and like understanding like marketing uh, and other little skills on the way, like people skills as well. Like I feel like in the criminal world, like your people skills get to a certain point because of the kind of people that you're dealing with. But then when you get put into the real world, it's like, okay, cool, you need to elevate a little bit more. But for the first 3 months, that I was essentially like kind of put through boot camp, like I was hand holding. Well, after that, it was I picked up things kind of quickly. So it was, and even they said to me they was like happy with my performance and things like that. But between October last year and July this year, that's where I worked for them. And again, like I can't thank them enough and Radical Recruit enough, because again, sometimes opportunity is all you need. But when you're not given that opportunity, it's like, where do you go from here? So on a constant basis, I was saying to them like, yo, I appreciate it. But a part of me always knew that I wasn't gonna stay there. I was just there to like learn about the corporate world and pick up skills, because of the background I've come from. It's like, okay, I know that I'm not going to get where I want to go and achieve the things I want to achieve by staying here long term. And I feel like being on the roads previously and selling drugs, it's like you said, it builds that entrepreneurial mindset. And now I've been told from my friends, and this belief's been instilled in me that I can make stuff happen. It's like, why not? So I decided this year to like take the leap of faith, and I left the job in July. So ever since then, I've been freelancing and figuring out life and this business stuff.
What is your passions for the
Nah,
future?
marketing is one of my passions, but
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest reason that I deterred from crime is because I want to show my friends, yeah, especially, and because I've lost a lot of people to jail and to death, and like some of my friends, I'm never gonna be able to see them again because some of them are 6 feet under, and some of them are doing 20 odd years in jail. And someday I used to just sit there and think to myself, like, this isn't life. Like, even though it's normal for me, like, it's not normal for everybody else. And a part of me just said that if I can be an example and show people that, okay, cool, we're on the road because we wanna make money and make a better life for our family and for ourselves. But if we can learn to do this in other ways without risking our freedom and the health of our families, then why not do it? So my goal is to, if I can make it, yeah, I want to just keep sending the elevator back down for everybody else, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't want to keep seeing my friends go to jail, and I don't want to keep going to funerals. It's not a way that people should live life.
No, definitely not. It is something hard when you move away from that life, and you get that vision of the real world, and then you
Yeah,
see them people that are still in there, other people you've lost, and it is really not worth it. And I suppose that's why I went into the work I went into, because I understand growing up in poverty and crime and everything
yeah.
else that comes with it. And there is things we can do to stop that happening, and just having people that motivate you and inspire you in the right correct way, being a role model and leading by example, that's all kids need to see these days,
Yeah, a
and they
hundred
don't see
percent,
enough of it.
100%. Like I remember one of the conversations I had with my friend, and he said to me, he's like, people like us don't make it where we're from. And
No.
like that hit me hard. I was like, if people don't, like, I never used to think about things like representation, but then I realized that like representation is so important nowadays, because if people can't see another person from their similar background making it or doing something worthwhile, then they're never gonna want to like leave that life. So I say to myself, if I can be a person that makes something of my life from the situation I've came from and from the background I've came from, and even from the area that I've came from, then that just shows everybody else that they can do it. Like I might not be able to touch everybody. Like I remember being a child, like you would have the odd one, a few people say to you, like, stop this and leave this alone. And I'm just like, yeah, but you don't understand where I come from. Like we've never walked in the same shoes.
Yeah.
You've had it better than I have. So if I can be that person that makes it from the background I've came from, then hopefully I can touch a few people and get them to kind of transition and go onto the same path and leave that life alone. And then it will turn into a domino effect because then they'll do the same thing and then they'll do the same thing. And then hopefully enough, the possibilities are endless. But that's the main reason I do what I do, man. That is the main reason.
That's the exact same reason why I'm doing this podcast, isn't it? Is to get it out there and show people like there is another option, there is another
There is.
road. So
Yeah, 100% is.
where do you see yourself then now in the next 5 years? What do you see yourself doing?
In the next 5 years. So I'm not gonna lie. I'm
Come on, you're
I've al-
slowly leveling up now, right?
yeah, I've always been an ambitious person, man. Like I've always like had this inner belief that like I know it sounds a bit cliche, but I've always had this inner belief that I'm different in it. Like even from young, like my friends have always said to me, like, you act weird and you're the odd one out and this, but like not in a bad way. Like we were all tight knit, but I was always like the boisterous one, the outspoken one, and if you're going left, I'm going right kind of
Yeah.
person. And I don't think it was ever on purpose. It was just an inherent part of my nature. So because I've been I'm always been so ambitious. I'm just like, in the next 5 years, ideally the possibilities are endless. But I always come back to the fact that where I'm from, people like to see results in it. And obviously, I know that there's people that I know that do road and do crime, and they make good money. But at the end of the day, I'm like, the only reason I started crime was so I can support me, support my family at the time, and essentially, obviously, at 14, they want to become a millionaire, and everybody wants to do that.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like, okay,
Reputation and
cool,
everything. Yeah.
yeah. So now I'm just like, cool with the skills that I have and the things that I know, and obviously, it's all progression. Like in my head, I'm only going to get better. Like not in a boastful way, but it's all I want to do is like I want to learn, I want to apply, I want to see what can happen because if there's people out there that can make things happen from scratch, then I definitely can. So in the next 5 years, my biggest hope is to set up a company where I can give back to the community and the wider community that I came from. Like I'm a person that believes wholeheartedly now, especially that education is the key to success. Like you know what they say, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And if I can allow people to get quality education or access to quality education, and not just in areas like where people like from the past, not just in areas like painting and decorating and construction, even though all of these are great, like the world's evolving,
Yeah.
like we're going into we're living in the digital world,
Yeah.
like we're fully involved in it. So if I can allow people to get education in things like tech and marketing and data and things like that, and then show people, yeah, that you don't have to live the life that society has assigned to you. Like it might be scary to go against the grain at that age. You might feel like you might be shunned, but I promise you, in 10 years' time, you're going to look back and thank yourself for it.
Yeah.
So I guess to put a pinpoint on what kind of company I want to build, I'm not 100% sure, but I just know that at the heart of anything I do, that's gonna be my clear vision. Like that's one of the core drivers that keeps me waking up every single day.
So this is I've been saying like we've been doing in work like ideas for projects and stuff, and I've been saying it for ages about a computer-based project, teaching them how to code, how to make computer games, not just play them, like and hone in
Yeah,
on their interests because kids love technology.
a
And if you
hundred.
give them the skills to build a life out of it, not just play computer games, do you know what I mean? You're going to capture their interest. You're going to
Yep.
really propel them into a life where they could be an entrepreneur, they could build a life like someone who has the opportunities, who's from an affluent area. And it doesn't matter where you are, you can get these skills and you can make it
Exactly.
out. And that's
Exactly.
an amazing vision to have. I'm telling you.
Exactly. I always say like skills and support, and somebody can go a long way, like a very,
Definitely.
very long way, because the confidence it instills in you, it's 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 mind blowing. Like never not like I say to myself now, I haven't even scratched the surface. Like talking to my friends all the time, we have this mindset where like we don't even care about like the next 6 months or the next year. Like even though it's important and we have to make sure we keep applying ourselves, we know that over the long term, when things start to compound over the next 5 to 10 years, that's when the real magic happens. So I feel like when you give people support and skills and that long-term vision, then the possibilities are endless, man.
And having the amount of resilience that people like us have, and then going into something like business, like we have
Yeah,
the resilience and then the skills to stay in it and put everything into it then, because that resilience that we built up on that path is
yeah,
great now in this life, isn't it? Like it
a
gives us a
hundred percent.
huge stable foundation because we can take quite a
You're
lot of
right.
shit, like.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I remember being younger, like there was times where, like obviously being on on the road and doing crime, it's it's not consistent cash flow. Like it's not every single you don't know you're getting paid this week. You have to go out and make stuff happen.
Yeah,
And even though it's in a negative way, you still have to go make it happen.
yeah,
So it allows you to show you like, okay, cool, I can go 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks without making any money. As long as I stick to the plan essentially. And
yeah.
like you said, like those skills there can always be transferred over to the corporate world and especially in entrepreneurship.
Definitely. Well, I can see you making it anyway. Like the steps you've taken, you're just leveling up every time, and it's amazing to see. You know what
So
I mean?
thank you, man.
So, if is there anything, any advice or anything you'd want to give to anyone out there who's at that transition stage, like I've had enough of road life, want to get out, because it's not a life anyone wants to live, is it? And
Yeah.
certain circumstances throw people in, but if you could give them any advice, what would it be?
It probably wouldn't even be advice, but it would just be there's more to life than where you grew up in it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like, since I made these friends from made my found new friends, it's like they've showed me that life isn't just the way you grew up. It's not just Ladywood. It's not just Birmingham. Like life is it's endless. The possibilities, like I keep saying, are endless. You can do whatever you want in life. I feel like just through adopting that mindset, you'll be able to move on to a lot of different things. Like you're not just who you are now or who you were before, or even the person you were 10 years ago. You're not your friends. Uh, you can become like whatever you want to become as long as you apply yourself. Like I think that was the biggest game changer for me.
Yes. And I say that's the things that people need to hear. Like you, there's a big world out there. And myself, I came out in 2018 out of prison, and when I started turning my life around and seeing the opportunities out there, like I've just been amazed by it. And it's like, all right, I have an addictive personality, but now I'm addicted to having a better lifestyle, being more positive, being a role model. And it's just been amazing that how much I've seen and how much I've learned over the last few years, and it just keeps me wanting to strive on even more. So
Exactly that.
yes, definitely. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been amazing to hear your journey,
So
and
thank you for having
we'll
me.
have to check in again now, see where you've leveled up next time.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Hopefully the next time we talk, I've broken the surface.
yeah, definitely. Well, I can see it happening anyway. So I wish you all the best of luck. And on that amazing note, I would like to thank our viewers and our subscribers for tuning in. And we will talk to you on the next episode of hashtag Tell Me Your Story.